How to be a good facilitator in meetings, part 2, focus on the traps that professional and novice facilitators often fall into. So whether you're a leader or an educator, or you identify as a facilitator, this video is gonna help save you from some really common stumbling blocks that I learned from training hundreds and hundreds of facilitators in some of the top universities and organizations on the planet. Let's get into it. Trap number 1, we'll just dive in. And I learned this from my work with an organization called World in Conversation, where my job was to facilitate and to actually train dialogue facilitators to lead conversations with small groups of people. So think 8 to 12 people in a room talking about really soft, fluffy topics like long-term conflict, race relations, gender politics, etc. So if we can talk about that productively and facilitate a meeting like that, we can definitely talk about a strategic plan or a business project or a whatever it is that you're facilitating a meeting around. So one of the most common traps that leaders, educators, and professional and novice facilitators fall into is forgetting to remain neutral. So in those conversations that I was leading, I'm hearing people share views that are different from my own, but my job is not actually to insert my view. In fact, in Microsoft Word, if you right-click on the word facilitator, it gives you a synonym or a sort of synonym that is to smooth the process of. By far my favorite definition of facilitation. Your job is not to convince anybody, it's not to lead anybody your job is to smooth the process of meeting for whatever purpose they've set out or whatever intention you've made clear at the beginning of your meeting. And if you need a little bit of a re-up on intention or the idea of meeting for purpose rather than for time, jump back to part 1 of this video, which will be linked up here. So how do you overcome the trap of not remaining neutral? Because as soon as you have an opinion, you're not a neutral party that's able to guide people. You're gonna actually start creating sides and division rather than creating consensus. And so as a facilitator, for me, the best way to trick my brain and what I would teach all the educators and facilitators that I work with is convert your bias into curiosity. This is a really good social justice, equity conversation as well, as when you convert your bias into natural, genuine, and empathetic curiosity, you can avoid traveling down the path of I need to be right and this is my view, and you can actually remain more open to what other people have to share. So shifting from this idea of I need to be right, or you're sharing something that I don't agree with or I think is wrong, so I need to jut in with my opinion. If you're the facilitator, I just don't believe that that is usually your job. Your job is actually to open possibilities for people, right? It's to create a pathway for the group to smooth the process to get where they want to actually go. And so to shift the group from this need to be right to openness, you might really consider being really curious about the different opinions, or, and this is a really solid facilitator tip or a tool to have in your back pocket, is invite curiosity from other people. Meaning, rather than just being curiosity yourself of like, hey, I don't quite understand that, can you explain your intention behind that more? You can do that, fine. But what is way more powerful is if you see two people start to disagree, and they start to talk like this, where it's a sentence that ends in a period, and a sentence that ends in a period, and a sentence that ends in a period, which can become mortars just fired over to the other side. Mortars that are trying to win the battle of I need to be right in this moment. What you can do as a facilitator to stop that mortar fire and turn that combat or conflict into collaboration is to say, hey, pause, I see that you are not agreeing with this. I'm curious, before you share your opinion, what are you curious to know about their opinion? That little pause, so really good facilitators act as traffic cops. So they hold up a stop sign or a go left green light, or right, they hold up different directions, and that's what they're doing. You're literally directing the traffic and the flow of conversation. I'm working with a coaching client right now, and we're designing her sessions and meetings. She's facilitating a series of sessions with a number of executives. She had been putting all this time into building out tons of content and PowerPoint slides and activities and all this stuff. And with a group of really smart people, oftentimes facilitation is actually just begins with one single good question, and then you become a traffic cop for the rest of the 60 or 90 minutes. So they're discussing that one question, or they're trying to answer that one question, and you're just directing and trying to smooth the process of that conversation so that people really hear each other, and they're not just launching mortars in the form of sentences and declarative statements back and forth. Trap number 2 is facilitators think a lot about how they start a meeting, but they don't think so much about the end of it. And so you get to the end and you're like, ooh, we didn't accomplish everything, or we have more to do, or like we actually didn't think that far ahead. We did all of our planning up until the final moment. The way to avoid that trap is to either literally set a timer, like, hey, Google, set a timer for 55 minutes from now. Google's not listening. Maybe your Google's listening. And when that timer goes off, that's your cue to take 5 minutes and end with intention, end really deliberately. And whether you want to end on a reflective note, a high note, an action-focused note, you choose whether you want to end with an activity or round-robin closing statements. Do something to put a cap on the meeting. Close it down with intention rather than letting the end fizzle out, or even worse, letting it bleed over time a little bit in hopes that you can accomplish everything. Because I promise you, like that extra 4 minutes is likely not going to solve all the unsolved things. Meetings are generally unfinished conversations. And so you, as a facilitator, you've got to create endings or transition points of like, hey, I know we're not done, and let's do this to end on a productive note. That's how I might frame the start of a closing. And then I might have people make closing statements. Or if I'm really short on time, I might have them say, if you reflect back on this last meeting, what's one word that you would attach to this meeting? If you're interested in going deeper with closings, go ahead and watch this video on how to keep a remote team engaged, where I actually explain 5 specific closing exercises that I really love to do as a facilitator to end meetings. I'm Chad Littlefield. There's a billion other videos on the channel. Have an awesome day.